Today, we're uncovering the true, astonishing, and deeply history of St. Augustine, a story so remarkable that, once you hear it, you'll never look at America the same way again. Thousands of years ago, this land was home only to Native American tribes. They had no idea that one day their homeland would become the oldest continuously inhabited European established city in what is now the United States, a city that would witness bloody wars, changing empires, pirate raids, devastating fires, slavery, freedom, and more than 4 centuries of remarkable history. This is the true story of St. Augustine. Long before Europeans arrived, this region was inhabited by Native American peoples, the most well-known being the Timucua. They hunted wild game, fished in the rivers, farmed the fertile land, and built villages along the waterways. They had their own language, spiritual beliefs, customs, and traditions. For countless generations, they were the original caretakers of this land. Everything began to change after Christopher Columbus's voyage in 1492, when Spain launched its campaign to claim territories in the New World. Years later, French settlers also arrived in Florida and established their own colony. Spain feared that if France gained control of the region, its influence in North America would be seriously threatened. In 1565, Spain sent its experienced naval commander, Pedro Menéndez de Aviles, to secure Florida. He arrived with dozens of ships and hundreds of soldiers. The day of his arrival coincided with the Catholic feast day of St. Augustine of Hippo. In honor of the occasion, the new settlement was named St. Augustine, officially established around September 8, 1565. With its founding in 1565, St. Augustine became the oldest continuously inhabited European established city in the continental United States. At the time this city was founded, New York did not yet exist, Boston had not been established, and Philadelphia had not even been planned. Not far away, the French had already built a colony known as Fort Caroline. Pedro Menéndez launched a surprise attack against the French settlement. A fierce battle followed, and many French soldiers lost their lives. Spain's victory secured its control over Florida for many years. As St. Augustine grew richer through trade and maritime activity, it became an attractive target for pirates. In 1668, the English pirate Robert Searle led a devastating raid on the city. Homes were looted, buildings were burned, and many residents were killed or taken captive. The attack exposed how vulnerable the settlement had become. Determined to defend the city, the Spanish government ordered the construction of a massive stone fortress. Work began in 1672 and continued for 23 years before the fortress was finally completed. Today it is known as Castillo de San Marcos, the oldest masonry fort in the continental United States. Even now, hundreds of thousands of visitors travel each year to explore its impressive walls and learn about its remarkable history. In 1763, following a major international conflict, Spain ceded Florida to Great Britain. The British flag was raised over St. Augustine, and British officials introduced new roads, settlements, and administrative reforms to the growing colony. 20 years later, in 1783, another peace treaty returned Florida to Spanish control. Once again, St. Augustine became a Spanish city and remained so for several decades. In 1821, Spain officially transferred Florida to the United States. From that moment onward, St. Augustine became a permanent part of the growing American nation. During the American Civil War, which began in 1861, the city was affected by the conflict. Control of St. Augustine eventually passed to Union forces, and the city remained under federal authority for the rest of the war. In the late 19th century, wealthy industrialist Henry Flagler recognized the city's enormous tourism potential. He invested heavily in luxurious hotels, railroads, and elegant buildings, transforming St. Augustine into one of America's most celebrated tourist destinations. Many of his architectural landmarks still define the city's skyline today. Nearly a century later, in 1964, St. Augustine became an important battleground during the American Civil Rights Movement. African Americans and civil rights activists organized peaceful demonstrations against racial segregation and discrimination. Their courage attracted national attention and helped build momentum for the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Today, St. Augustine is celebrated as one of America's most beautiful historic cities. Its narrow cobblestone streets, centuries-old churches, magnificent fortress, fascinating museums, and picturesque waterfront preserve the atmosphere of another era. Every year, millions of visitors come to experience the city's unique blend of history, architecture, and coastal beauty. As the sun sets behind the ancient walls of Castillo de San Marcos, it feels as though more than 460 years of history are still alive within its weathered stones. St. Augustine is far more than just a city. It is a living story of competing empires, fierce battles, pirate attacks, courage, sacrifice, and the earliest chapters of American history. If you love history, the story of St. Augustine is a powerful reminder that every ancient city holds centuries of unforgettable memories waiting to be discovered.